Well, shalom, everybody. This is Dave from Universal Truth and Mankind. I am your host. I'm not sure if this is going to be a series or not. I'm going to have it under a playlist, but I'm thinking of a title for this as being Future Forecast. So, what is Future Forecast? This is where I'm going outside the bounds of my normal teachings, which is Kabbalah 101. Ah, Rooster, he's agreeing with me. And um, meditation 101, as well as in the image of, and so on and so forth. But I'm going to take this more onto the physical realm here, more on a psychological, the mind and the physical realm. So I'm going to step down from there. It's not that I'm disconnecting from the spiritual. You see what I mean? We have a lot of things coming our way. Oh, and also it's going to be a little longer. And please share all my videos. They're free. Why won't you like them and share them? Just do it. It makes sense. Okay. So, future forecasts. We are in a very interesting time of society. We're in a point of time in the history of society that is largely ignorant of its own history. It's ignorant of the war games and the various games that are being played on us by corporations, by governments, by our leaders. And it's going to come to a head at some point. So what I want to do is I'm going to step back in history. I am a numismatist. What that means is I'm not just a coin collector. I study coins. I've studied Roman coins. I studied Greek coins. I studied obviously American coinage and so on and so forth, European, English, British coinage and stuff like that. And what a numismatist does is it's not just he has knowledge of the coins themselves. He's also aware of the content of precious metals. He understands the value of the money at the time and so on and so forth. So he's able to get a good glimpse, or she can get a good glimpse of the economic prosperity of the country or the empire at that time. Now, it also means that we love history, and I'm a history buff. I've studied Roman history. I've studied Greek history. I studied, obviously, Israeli history. I've studied Chinese history. I studied dozens of countries and also their empires. But I also studied religion. See, I personally believe that in order to control the world, there's four things we need in this world. If you want to control the people, there's four things you have to control. Now you're saying, oh, where did you get this information? This is just simple deduction. Like I told people, I'm dyslexic, so I think pictorially. So I look for patterns, like patterns of 10. I have a video about patterns of 10. I talk about the patterns of 7. I can come up with 3 and 5. I can come up with a lot of different patterns and talk about them. Patterns of phraseology, patterns of events. This is all the way I think. And this has really helped me with my Kabbalistic studies. Okay. You gonna stop anytime soon? He's telling me I'm here. Believe it or not, they usually crow if they sense someone is in their territory. I'm outside in the backyard. He hasn't seen me a few days because of rain. He's probably saying, well, who are you? Anyway. So how do I proceed here? Forgot where I was going. Let me just go back a little bit, see if I can catch up. Anyway, it will all come together as time goes on. Oh yeah. So I look for patterns and I look for these commonalities, and I find commonality between the Roman Empire and us. I see commonality between the Holy Roman Empire and us. I see commonality between various empires in South America. I visited Chichen Itza when I was a young man, and I thoroughly enjoyed that. And boy, did I learn a lot. Boy, did I learn just how wrong the scientists, the anthropologists are of what went there, because I saw the evidence myself. And it very easily can be presumed to mean something else other than what they said. So what I mean by wrong is they say, oh, this is the way it is. No, 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 that's wrong. I'm not wrong because I'm saying this is another possibility of understanding their history. And I'm not wrong. It's perfectly legit to think. So I've learned to look at these patterns. And we're coming up to a big one soon. But I want to step back to 1871. In 1871, something happened. When I was a child, my parents used to take me on day trips and stuff like that. And I used to see signs saying, oh, incorporated in 1871, incorporated in 1871, incorporated in 1871, incorporated in 1871, incorporated in 1871. What are you talking about incorporated in 1871? Why not some other date? There were a few, but it was always after 1871, sorry, 1871, 1871. It's always after. Well, in 1871, our government ceased being a constitutional government. Yes, I did say that. And yes, that is a fact. And I'll show you how it's a fact very shortly. So we left the constitutional government and we became a incorporated federal government, incorporated states, incorporated towns and ships and others. You occasionally see a sound that says a town that says unincorporated. Oh, I love those towns. The unincorporated. Why would you want to incorporate? Money, 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 money. That's what its incorporation is. So what was happening, a constitutional bank was pushed aside and replaced by a corporate banking system. You see how that happened? Now, granted, they still held to the Constitution. But what it meant was, over time, the constitutionality of our society becomes less and less and less. It could be diluted over time, which is exactly what has happened. So let's step forward in history a little more. 1913. What happened then? Federal Reserve. Federal Reserve is not federal, and nor is it the Reserve. It's a private banking system, incorporated. Wow. That's when we had the income tax, so we can pay off these corporations. That's a fact. Look it up. I'm not spinning any false information. If you feel it is, research it, and you think it is, then believe what you want to believe. I'm telling you the way I'm seeing it. So let's push on a little more. I've also noticed when studying my history, there has always been someone behind the scenes. I've taken my lessons that I learned from this history and that empire and this empire and this country and that country and this. I will get back to the four in a moment. You realize I skipped that. Just realized that's what I had to go back to. But it was always obvious someone was in charge behind the scenes. There's always someone in charge behind the scenes. Everyone you saw was a figurehead. They were not the actual leaders. They hid in the darkness. Every empire had this. Okay, so now let's step back for a moment. I said this, if you want to control people, there's four things you have to control. Okay? Back when civilization first started, there were two people or two institutions within a society that would control that society. And a lot of times they were at odds with each other. That was the authority, the king, the leader of the people, and it was the religious, esoteric priests of the society So you had the politicians and you had the priests of society that controlled society. The Holy Roman Empire tried to combine these two, and they centralized in Germany. You can look up the maps, look up the history, but through the Pope, they were able to merge the two. They were trying to combine the two. I'm not saying they're good or bad. That's not what I'm trying to say. I'm simply saying this is the history that has taken place. I'll ignore that. So that's two of the three. You have to control the leadership and you have to control the priests. Then you have generals who like to take over and say, oh, no, 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 I don't agree with this guy. We got to start a coup and remove this person. So the military is another way to control. And the fourth, money, a centralized system of money. In other words, you centralize the politicians, the leadership of the country, of the state, of the towns. You centralize the religions. I did say that. You think all these religions don't have or aren't trying to, or maybe on the verge of having pacts with each other? Come on. We've seen enough to know, yes, that is either being done, worked on, or to some level has been accomplished. Okay, centralized control. It's there. I don't care which religion you talk about. Centralized control. Did you know that if you take all religions of the world and you try to categorize them, how many religions do you come up with? 7 categories of religion. Look that up. I didn't say that. There's a book about it. Okay. So centralization is very important. Militaries of the world. You say, oh, that can't be. Well, wasn't there the Eastern Pact with the Soviets? Is there not NATO? Centralizing the power of the militaries of the world. Well, what about money? You got the EU. Wait a minute. Before the EU, all those countries had their own currency. Now they have a centralized currency under EU. See what's happening? This has been happening through history over and over and over and over and over and over. Even Hitler was involved with this. That up. Okay, a little bit of rain. I'm not sure if it's the trees blowing. Or is there actual rain? Do I have to pause? Yes. So you have to centralize these 4 things. But when you centralize them, something up top is in control. Just like corporations, something at top. When you create a corporation, you create an authority over you. You say, oh, no, 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 it's just 2 or 3 people that get together and to share stocks with the public and public own stuff. Not exactly. Corporations have to answer to a higher authority. Taxes, policies and procedures, and so on and so forth. Or they're owned by other corporations. Words like, oh, I don't know, that have rock in them, and other names. Corporations, multi-trillion-dollar corporations. Trillionaires. There's trillionaires out there. You see how this all comes together, how we're all accumulating under a central control, under a globalist system. Why do I bring this up? A globalist system is anti-God. It's anti-Kabbalah. And it's anti-spiritual. Why? Nimrod tried it. Did he not? He tried becoming a world power. And I've said this before. Supposedly there has been cuneiform bowls, or at least one bowl, found in South America with Nimrod's name in it. He was trying to become a global power. God stopped it. And so on and so forth. Egypt was about global power. They had to be broken. How were they broken? By delivering Israel out. It wasn't just Israel. People don't realize that. A lot of Gentiles who looked at it and said, no, that's going to be my God, joined. A lot of the great people that we read about in the Tanakh, that's what we Christians call it, Old Testament, errantly, many of them married these women from these other nations who went out with them because they were favorable towards Israel. We don't hear about that. So let's bring it closer to now. In 2020, I'm not saying who I'm for. I'm not telling who to vote for. Please understand. I'm trying to be apolitical here. Because even a good guy can eventually turn into a bad guy. But I've never heard of a bad guy becoming a good guy. Just letting you know. Okay. So, or I should say, I know of maybe one, possibly two, but possibly these are possibilities. So let's bring it down to now. 2020, July 4th, Melania Trump and Donald Trump declared at Mount Rushmore that he reestablished the constitutional government of the United States. Go back and watch it. That meant war. That meant war. War with who? Corporate United States government. It's the only one it can be. Because that's what those battle lines were drawn in 1871. So now you have not one, now you have two governments fighting each other. I'm not kidding you. Go back and watch what he said, and you'll see it. I'm going to cut for a second because it's raining. Okay, great. The rain's stopping. There's none in the forecast. Unbelievable. That's typical for the Northeast. All right, so that was declared. So there's a war between them. Now you might be saying, "Well, I'm not seeing a war." Well, we are. You have to understand. We're talking about 5G warfare, not 5G the phones. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about, but although that is part of this scam, it's 5G, meaning fifth generational warfare. Look it up. It starts with intelligent warfare. In other words, it's all about changing the mind. It's all about programming the people to be what they want you to be. How do they do that? Propaganda. Where does propaganda come from? Let's just face it, the news. I haven't listened to the news in decades. And so when they pop something up, I go, you're full of crap. It's obvious you're full of crap. How can you people believe this? It's nonsense what you're talking about. But people believe it. So they've well entrenched themselves in the media. That's just a simple reality. That's the reality check we have to be in on this. Okay, so that's what we're in the middle of. The last resort is physical warfare. But I'm going to warn you, it's coming. No, I'm not a prepper. Do I have food stocks? Do I have preparations? Do I have plans? Of course I do. Anyone who doesn't is a fool. You should have that because you get a big blizzard and you're stuck in your house for a week. You better have at least a week or two of food in your house. You know, because once you go to town to get your food, the stock's probably going to be wiped out by a bunch of panicked people. So you may have to wait 2 or 3 weeks till you can get your food. So, of course I am. That. Do I believe the apocalypse is coming? No. I don't get that in my spiritual senses at all. I see a very hopeful situation developing, provided we respond appropriately. Now, let's step back for a moment, back to Genesis. I do have a series on that, but let's go back to Adam and Eve, or the man and the woman. What happened? Well, the serpent tempted her, tried to get her to eat the fruit. And you may say, well, they were told not to eat it. Well, the first occurrence of saying that, when God told Adam before he was divided into two, a male and a female, it was okay. I mean, they did not eat the fruit, or he did not eat the fruit, or it, I should say, did not eat the fruit. So that was obeyed. But when the woman came along, she ate the fruit. And I do have a video about that. You can always watch it if you like on Kabbalah 101, where say Eve to the rescue is what I called it. Yes, I did say that. I look at her in a positive light, not a negative light. So, and I explain that in that video. But what did she do? And this is the key point of the whole thing. Oh, her eyes were open. Holy craps. He's beguiling me. Adam, eat. The serpent wanted to eat it. He never got a chance to eat it. He ate it, meaning the male ate it. So she took the fruit and gave it to the male and said, man, eat. Male, eat. That way you and I can produce our own children. She's not going to produce the children with the serpent. The curse is also very revealing. First of all, her name is called Kabbalah, which means life bearer. If she did something horrible, why is she a life bearer? If you take a look at the curses that are put upon them, really not curses, if you really pay attention, at least to the male and the female, those curses are the type of things that are going to occur in the physical realm. Why? Because you could be fighting the serpent. So the serpent is the one who you're going to be fighting, and he's going to make you have to toil. He's going to make you sweat. He's going to make you, he's going to try to steal your children, so on and so forth. We had that. But if you look at the curses put upon the serpent, you will see that the only thing he can do to us is impact us mentally and physically, not spiritually. The spiritual war was already won at that point. That may throw a few people off out of whack on that one. But our spiritual warfare is done. It's our mental, our metaphysical, and our, sorry, and our physical. And what happened in next chapter? Cain killed Abel. Cain was influenced by the serpent. He killed Abel. He influenced him first by mind and then by body and killed Abel. So we see what's taking place there. It's a physical event, not a spiritual event. So spiritually, we're fine. So who are we fighting today? Makes you wonder, doesn't it? Kabbalah students, Kabbalists do teach that the serpent's a real creature. It's a real being. So that's the situation right now. That's the top of the chain. All right. So that gives us hope. Okay, spiritually we're fine. Now we got to worry about the mental and the physical. We watch propaganda on TV. That's the mental. And it produces physical reactions. Hatred. Disunity. And so on and so forth. The very things that we should be doing is what it keeps us from doing. All right, so now you got that. So now let's talk a little more from another angle here. Like I said, July 4th, that's one of two. Now we have a constitutional federal government and we have a incorporated federal government. They are fighting each other right now, but they're at an intellectual, psychological level right now. It will become physical. Why? Because it's already mental. They need to stop the vote. There's going to be a batter switch soon. We've been talking this for 2 years. 2 years ago, I said to my family that Michael Obama, yeah, I'm using that name purposely, will be moved into front place. Biden will be removed. They're already starting the narrative for that. And then they're going to replace, they're probably going to bring in Hillary, I suspect. And then Obama, Michael, will be put into the presidential spot for nominee. They have to nominate Biden first, and then they can remove him. It's a lot simpler to do that because they've already went through the primaries and stuff. So now that works out great because you have certain races involved, which I could care less what you are. Can you do the job? That's all I care about. You can do the job, and you're here for the people. I don't care if you're fuchsia. I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. Either one of those. My dog started to bark. Okay. Okay. Dogs like to talk to each other. You know, are you a dog? Yes. Oh, well, what do you know? I am a dog too. And then they ask this question, are you a dog? Yes, I'm a dog. They forget real quick. Okay. So that's what's going to happen because they don't want Trump to get in. You may be asking, what's so bad that they want Trump out? Well, they lied about him over and over and over again. I've listened to his speeches, and then I listened to the news, and the news did not represent what he said. They lied about him over and over and over again. Okay. I use my own ears. I didn't go to sources. I use my own ears to discern what's going on. So, so if they feel they cannot win the presidency, then they're going to try to stop it. First, it would be a cyber attack, more than likely, because they said in 2020, oh, these machines are not connected to the internet. Oh, no, they're not. Just to find out they were connected to the internet, number one. And number two, they're going to use the same excuse this time, but they're going to say, look, because they're connected to the internet, which is the truth, man. I didn't forget. See, you have to understand a politician's thought is this. The average citizen's memory is 6 months long. So you got to go beyond the 6 months. Keep that in mind when you do your research. All right. So that's a situation with that. Then if that doesn't work, then they're going to have to create war. They're already trying to create war. It all started with Ukraine, and that's an interesting story in itself. And I will touch on that in just a moment. Okay, so war's next thing. Nuclear, not guns and bullets. They want nuclear war. And they're going to fake it as much as they can. Believe it or not, the military knows how to fake a nuclear attack. They do simulations. They know how to do it. You get the right people behind you, you can make these things happen. And then report it with cameras on the angles they want, mostly peaceful protests. And they'll be able to convince you that there's a nuclear war occurring that may not be. And more than likely would not be. Because they got to save their own necks too. They don't want to die. But they want to stop the elections. That's the key. So let's go back to the beginning of March of 2020. Now in 2020, I keep my fingers on a lot of things. I know a lot of people. And anyway, I know I have my sources. Now, in March 2020, 3 weeks, possibly 2 weeks before the COVID came out, Trump executed an operation called Operation Python. You look it up yourself. I noticed it's slowly gotten deleted, but I'm sure there's some places that you can still find about Operation Python. Operation Python was all-out war with the military, all-out war with the cartels, drug cartels. You say, okay, so that's good. I'm glad they did that. What do these drug cartels do? Think. Is it just drugs they deal with? Have you not heard in the news that drug cartels are helping people to cross the border? Did you know that drug cartels are very, very big into getting children across the border? Human trafficking is what they do on top of the drugs. Human trafficking is a real thing. Absolutely, without a doubt, is a real thing. Some places I used to work, we used to have programs, um, classes, I'm trying to think of the appropriate word, that we went to learn of how to recognize and see human trafficking because it was such a huge problem. Not a little problem, huge problem. They knew. And this is going back into the early 2000s. They already knew human trafficking was a huge problem. How to recognize it, how to report it, what to do about it. Training, that's the word I'm looking for. They would have training classes. I was involved with that. Or I mean, I participated, I attended them. Interestingly enough, 2 weeks after that, all of a sudden COVID came out. Me personally, I believe Trump did that on purpose because he wanted to force them to use COVID-19 as a means to not only create the balloting system, but to also the cheating in the election of 2020. There's cheating. Come on, it's going to come out. Anyone with half a brain can see this. All right. I'm not going to sit here and act like, oh, it couldn't, and maybe it's not. No, 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 no. Once shame on you, twice shame on me. I'm not going to be fooled a second time. So what happened was Trump made sure what? They exhausted their ammunition. He's made sure they were exhausting their ammunition, their propaganda, their tools. They can't pull COVID-19 this time. So the only thing they can pull is cyber attack for what? Election system that wasn't online in 2020, which it was. So now they're going to use that as an excuse to shut us down. They're going to change players. So at some point they can pull out who? The president and replace it with Hillary Clinton, which was expected to win. She's part of a 16-year plan. When I was a young boy, I looked into what do you call it? 21. Sorry about that. I had to think for a moment. Agenda 21. They just call it Agenda 21, but really it's Agenda 2021. And if you read through it, you find out they wanted to destroy the United States and basically make the United States into a huge park. And this park would be only for the elite, the globalists of the world would live there. Anyone who survived all the massacres, starvation, um, or whatever, were going to be pushed into cities such as Chicago, New York. Remember the movie? Some of you older folks like myself, Escape from New York? That's what they were trying to do. However, it's been failing. So that's why they came up with the 15-minute cities. That's all part of this. But the 15-minute cities are not working now because people are waking up. They're starting to see the nonsense. So that's what Hillary was supposed to bring in. but obviously failed. So now they have what? Agenda 30? So now they're trying to think of 2030 of doing the same thing. And that's what this Green New Deal is all about. That's why they're trying to scrub our history, remove statues. I don't care if there's a Confederate statue up or not. Confederacy, you got to understand, was about states' rights. That was why the major reason why it took place, states' rights, because the federal government was trying to become too powerful and trying to centralize things. They didn't like that. I, as a numismatist, know this because I studied the coinage of the time and the economics and policies of the time. And ever since 1838, the North was trying to isolate the South. They wanted war. They wanted to defeat the South. That war was planned for. Did you know that? It was planned for. They had a budget for it before it even started. Look that up yourself. A lot of underhandedness has taken place. So I think I'm going to stop there. I may or may not do another video, but I wanted you people to know this. And I wanted you people to at least be aware of it and do your own research. A lot of people say, well, where's your sources? No, 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 no. You do your own research. I'm not here to convince you of anything. I'm simply sharing what I've learned. Please do your own research and add to what I have. Don't look to debunk me. Add to what I have. Let the information shake itself out. I'm only one person. Got a dozen, 100 people doing this research. We're going to come up with amazing information. So I hope this at least gives you hope. I believe it's going to work out just fine. Yeah, we may have some moments where we're going to have stock of our own food, water. Be happy to have a wood stove. Keep the house warm. We may run into some things, but a lot is going to occur when this is over. The schools are not prepared for it. The banks aren't prepared for it. The politicians aren't prepared for it. A lot of these institutions we have are going to go away because they're part of this whole thing. All right, I won't say any more. I hope this inspires you. I hope it comforts you. And I hope it helps you to prepare. Take care, everybody. Shalom, shalom.